Well, we're very lucky today. We've got Brad and Karina Haddin here. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
They're here to talk about Brad's new book, My Family's Keeper. Now, I'm going to get you to hold that up for us, Karina. It's a wonderful book. Most of you will know that Brad is a very famous cricketer and he played for the Australian Test side. Now, please excuse my lack of cricket knowledge, because this isn't just a cricket book, is it?
No, I think that's the beauty of the book. People don't have to be cricket fans to enjoy this. This is more of a book about family, a book about what we went through with our daughter and how we got through the huge event of her cancer, to be perfectly honest. So you don't have to be a cricket fan to enjoy it, and I think that's one of the most appealing things about the book.
Every time you speak, Brad, I get goosebumps because it isn't a book that I personally would have read. Cricket is not my thing. However, it's not about that. It's more than that, and it really is just a beautifully written, heart-wrenching story. So thank you both. Thank you, Karina, as well, for coming in, because it's your story as well, as much as anything else. It's a family story. But before I start, I'm just going to read the first two paragraphs out of the book. I know, have you done one? Yeah, I have. For those of you that have just joined us, we're talking with Brad and Karina Haddin. They have a new book out and it's called My Family's Keeper. They're in our office at the moment. Say hello to everybody.
Hi.
If you've got any questions or if you've got any comments, we'll take those as well. But I'm going to start with this. The book's called My Family's Keeper, and this is in Brad's voice. The instant my phone buzzed at 6:30 a.m. Caribbean time, I knew something was wrong back at home. The display showed it was Karina calling. For more than a decade, she had been waving me off on tour to play cricket around the world. Remembering time zone differences was second nature to her. She would never have rung at this time unless there was bad news that couldn't wait. My stomach tightened as I reached over to the bedside table. In theory, it could have been anyone in the family who was in crisis. It could have been one of our parents or siblings or our 3.5-year-old son, Zach. It could have been Karina herself, 30 weeks pregnant with our third child. But my mind went straight to Mia, our funny, cheeky, adorable 16-month-old daughter. I was sure even before Karina spoke that it was our little girl she was calling about. I braced myself for what I was about to hear, but what Karina told me was worse than anything I could ever have imagined. What a powerful start to a book, and it's a true story.
Yeah, it is, and it was one of those moments that even hearing it now, you get that sick feeling back in your stomach of the unknown, what's in front of you.
It never goes away, does it?
No, it doesn't go away. Especially the more you read it back, that feeling's still there. But I remember getting the phone call from Karina, and I've spent my whole life challenging myself to be the best I can, to try to play for Australia and be successful there. But as soon as I hung up that phone, I was no longer a cricketer. It was amazing how easy it was just to step away from the game and turn my mind off from being a cricketer after spending so long with that drive to be the best you can, and it's amazing how easy it was just to walk straight away from the game.
Okay, Karina, so you were on your own when you got this news. Tell us what happened. Tell us about the diagnosis.
I actually took Mia to the GP, and I had her in my arms.
Why? Was she just not well?
She'd just been unwell. We couldn't put our finger on it, but even before Brad left for the West Indies, we just couldn't put our finger on it. And the day that I took her to the GP, my dad had offered to take our younger 2.5-year-old because he knew I needed to concentrate. And he took him to work with him. And I rang my girlfriend in the car on the way and I said, Kim, I'm going to the GP, something's wrong with me. I'm just going to say, I don't know what it is, but something is wrong. And anyway, I didn't have to.
So was she off her food or?
She just looked unwell, and she just was a little bit tired, but then she'd have really good days as well where she would just perk up and we'd think, oh, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this child. She's just happy as Larry. But then other days she'd just be a bit flat. So I didn't know what was wrong with her. I didn't expect it was going to be cancer. I thought that...
How long did that diagnosis take to come?
we had we sort of thought that she was unwell just before Brad went to the West Indies in the January, or the February was it? And then, but immediately the GP looked at her and said, she's pale and she'll need a blood test, and I'll also feel a tummy, and he got her in for an ultrasound that day. So
That day?
Yeah, 2 o'clock that day I was at the ultrasound radiology place, and basically walked out of there with the report in my hand that afternoon and was off to Westmead later that night.
And what's the technical diagnosis?
Originally they thought she had a Wilms tumour, that's what they sort of saw on the ultrasound, but then as the testing went over the next 7 days, so Brad was able to fly home, took you about 3 or 4 days to fly home, and then the testing was still going on, and then they finally diagnosed her with neuroblastoma, stage 4, which basically meant that it had spread throughout her bones, and basically she needed the most aggressive treatment to cure that stage 4.
What is neuroblastoma?
Neuroblastoma is a cancer that attacks the nerve cells. So she actually had it on her adrenal gland, but then it had spread to other parts of her body. But you can get it in any part of your body, anything that's a nerve cell.
And stage 4 is a pretty serious diagnosis,
There is
isn't
no
it?
stage 5.
There is no stage 5,
It was the worst. So basically she got the most intense treatment given to her. So 6 rounds of chemotherapy, bone marrow transplant, radiation therapy. She had a 8-hour surgery, and a new technique called immunotherapy, which is making breakthroughs in cancer treatment for kids, especially with neuroblastoma. So,
What hospital was she at?
She was at the Westmead. And going back to what Karina said there, when we had a feeling that Mia was unwell, but that feeling was she might have a virus, she might be allergic to something. When Karina phoned, cancer was the last thing on our mind. As I said before, we thought she just had a reaction to something. She'd been to GPs before, and they just sort of, it was normal what she was going through at different stages of her development.
And to make that phone call, Karina, I'm just trying to hold back the tears here, must be, at what point did you think, well, I've now got to talk to Brad?
I actually rang his parents first and told them. They live in Canberra, and so I rang them and I said, it's the middle of the night, I won't ring Brad until I know more results. And they said, and Brad's dad said, Brad will want to know. And I thought, no, I'll protect him a little bit. He's worked so hard to, play cricket for Australia, and he's such a long way away in the West Indies. There's absolutely nothing he can do at this point in time.
No.
I won't tell him, but his dad just said he will want to know. He will come home as soon as you ring him, and in actual fact that's what happened. I ended up ringing him and he said I'll come home immediately.
I'm speaking with Brad and Karina Haddin. I'm holding back the tears because it really is just the most powerful, moving story. It's a book that Brad has written. It's called My Family's Keeper. It's a story of family. It's a story of love. It's a story that is also about cricket, but it's also about career and making decisions in your life, isn't it, Brad? I mean, I think in the book you say there was really no decision, was it?
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing about it. There was no decision.
No.
I'd spent my whole life. I've actually had a blessed career for Australia. I enjoyed every moment of it. But once I got the phone call, there was actually no decision to be made. I never second guessed it for one little bit. Once I knew that something was wrong with Mia, and we had a long journey ahead of us, and that was just the way I was brought up. I was always brought up to put family first, and so from spending your whole life trying to be the best cricketer you can be, to be able to walk away from the game that easy and not even having to make a decision about it, it was just I'm done as a cricketer.
What did your teammates say?
At the start we didn't really know what was going on. I told a few of the guys that I was close to. I was on the way home. Mia had a tumour, and obviously they were in as much shock as anyone, and very supportive of whatever whatever I was about to do. But I just sort of went numb, to be perfectly honest. My only focus was getting home as quick as I possibly could, and being there for decisions Mia had to make over the next couple of days and weeks and months, to be honest.
It took a long time. You're with Better Reading. I'm Cheryl Arkle. We're chatting with Brad and Karina Haddin. We're talking about Brad's new book, My Family's Keeper. So it was a long journey from there on. How many years of this? And you were lucky to have years, weren't you?
I think the one thing that stood out right from the start was what Dr. Luch said. He said, you're no longer a normal family.
No.
So Mia was diagnosed at 17 months. She's now 6 years of age. She's cancer free, but we don't really know the full extent of what's going to happen with her, with different stages she goes through in developing, because the treatment was so aggressive. So we're enjoying everything at the moment. She's a beautiful 6-year-old girl.
Happy and healthy.
Happy and healthy.
Yeah, and she's a fighter. You only have to look at her first day of school to be honest. It was an exciting time for not only us but the whole family. It was a big event that she had made it that far to go to school.
So she was in hospital for how long?
She was in hospital for over 18 months. The treatment actually was 14 months long from start to finish, but with complications and feeding issues and a few different things going on after treatment, it ended up extending out to about 18 months. And then from there you had scans every 3 months, just surveillance scans. So constantly at the hospital. She's under an orthopaedic surgeon, a gastroenterologist, a surgeon, an oncologist. She wears hearing aids, so we have hearing tests. And now she's started school, we're just checking up on different things that will go with school. So lots of ongoing medical appointments.
Some of the internals, the photographs in the book, and you might want to hold those up, Brad, and show us, but she is resilient. She was smiling the whole time. There's a lovely photo of her where she has a broken shoulder, she's got a smile from ear to ear.
Yeah, that was one of the complications of the having a metastasis in her shoulder. She got a fracture.
It's just extraordinary.
She gave us so much hope in hospital because she was always positive and she was always smiling, and the nursing staff and the doctors just thought she was amazing, the way that she handled her treatment and just complied with everybody. And apparently she's like that at school now too. She's apparently an angel at school.
Good. You want to hear that as parents,
I still
don't
think
you?
this one here, this is my favourite. The first day of school.
Isn't it beautiful?
Is
that this year?
Yeah,
Yes.
that was this year. We'd spent so much time, we basically lived beside Mia's bed for 12 months. She had someone beside her, and knowing the bond between a mother and daughter, I remember walking her into school and she sat down and she said, "Bye mum, bye dad," and we sort of said,
"What?
Mia, you're going to have to give us a bit more than that." And I remember walking out with Karina and I said, if we get that reaction tomorrow, I think I'm going to pinch her. We need it.
But don't they say the sign of good parenting is actually raising independent children? Isn't that the sign?
She's definitely independent, but that just summed Mia up. She had so many curveballs thrown to her on the way. She had some terribly dark days in hospital and some really enormous fights on her hand, but that just summed up her personality. She just wanted to be at school. She just wanted to be normal like everyone else.
Absolutely.
And she didn't want mum or dad there.
Yeah, and then she's probably going to give you hell as a teenager, and then she's probably going to move out, but she's going to be strong and she's going to be independent, isn't she? Yeah. How does that affect the family? Like, you were 30 weeks pregnant, so then you ended up having a newborn while you were dealing with this.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my biggest fears from a father's point of view. Is yes, we had Mia with the fight of a life, and we all had to pull together. But another thing is, as a parent, we had to make sure it didn't affect Zach. Karina was 30 weeks pregnant at the time with Hugo, so we also had a job to do to make sure Zach's quality of life wasn't affected as well. So that's where we're extremely lucky to have both sets of parents that we're close to, and both grandmothers dropped everything and we're there to help. So we wouldn't have been able to survive without that. And And Zach and Hugo are two perfectly healthy,
Great brothers.
adventurous little boys. So, and that was one of the biggest fears for me, is making sure Zach was getting brought up the way he needed to.
Yeah, and then they don't miss out. Okay, so for those of you that know, you know, unlike me, you know that Brad Haddin is a cricketer, and an astounding one at that. What happens with that? I mean, how do you get to this kind of level in sport? I mean, you know, you're an elite athlete, and then you park that, and what happens for Brad now?
In all honesty, I'm enjoying being a father. As silly as it sounds, my last year of
it doesn't
international
sound silly.
Cricket, I was away, I think 300 days. So you miss the simple things, the school drop-offs, taking the kids to swimming lessons, and even a barbecue with friends and family at the back. So I'm actually just enjoying those moments, to be perfectly honest, because we had a pretty tough run with Mia, so just enjoying just being a family.
Absolutely. Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to add? Any messages out there for, I mean, there are so many parents doing this alone as well. Is there any kind of advice that you'd like to put out there?
Well, I think one of the things with the book is this can touch another family who are going through similar things or going through a tough time, and the way we dealt with it, if that can touch another family and make their journey a little bit easier, well, the book's been worth it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you want to hold that up for us, Karina, one more time? We've been chatting with Brad and Karina Haddin. Their book is My Family's Keeper. Some of you will know that Brad is a cricketer. There is cricket in it, so if you love cricket, it's worth reading. But if you want to hear a story or read a story about a loving family, about hardship, about strength and stoicism, this is the book for you. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It is definitely a family story, and I love the fact that it's called My Family's Keeper. So Brad and Karina, can't thank you enough for coming in and speaking with us today. A wonderful book. Congratulations on continuing to raise 3 beautiful children, and maybe you'll write a book once she becomes a teenager.
Maybe she will.
Maybe she will. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.